Okay. Okay, we are live streaming and we're also live on Zoom. So for those of you who are joining in and watching the recording, I'll just give you a little intro about who I am, what the Hustle to Harmony Virtual Summit is, kind of where it came from, and our agenda for today and tomorrow. So thank you all for being here. I'm Cherie Sauer. I'm a business breakthrough coach. I help 6, 7, and 8-figure female entrepreneurs stop the hustle and scale their business with harmony through my proprietary Ramp Up method, which I created from a background of exercise science, sports psychology, and from the sports medicine world, and working with high-level athletes and entrepreneurs over the last 17 years. I've been in and out of business, dabbled in direct sales for about 15 years, and then started my own business. I've had my own business for 6 years now. Originally started as a self-care gift box company for moms. And then I realized that it wasn't about products and services. It was about the mindset that was keeping moms stuck from taking care of themselves. And then transitioned into really coaching female entrepreneurs in general to really create a work-life balance that they absolutely love, and continue scaling their business and not have to sacrifice their profits. So that's a little bit about me. Hence the Hustle to Harmony Virtual Summit that's because that's what I love to do, is really inspire and help people to get out of the hustle mentality and hustle cycle and really scale with harmony, with more peace, joy, freedom, and fulfillment in their business and their life. As an entrepreneur, you started your business because you wanted freedom. You didn't want to have to work for somebody else, right? And so we become business owners and we don't have somebody telling us what to do or when to stop or when to take time off, right? And so we get in the hustle mentality of achieving, because that's what culture and society has programmed us to do. And then we look around and realize that our business has taken over our life. I've been there. I have clients who have been there. So I get it. So this summit is really to allow you to hear other people's stories, not just my own, to really inspire you that you can build your business and do it in a way that feels really good and that gives you the life that you want, right? Helping you to design your business around your life, not your life around your business. So our agenda for today, Wednesday, September 7th, we are going to have Tracy Matney on from 10:15 to 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. She's going to be talking about going from 50 plus hours a week and hustling to, Tracy's joining us now, to 10 hours in homeschooling. And then from 11 to 11:45 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Megan Huber is going to be on talking about soul rest, pausing before a pivot and reigniting your passion. And then we'll take a little break. And then from 12:15 to about 12:55, Misty Springer is going to be on talking about going inward to create outward results. She's going to talk about how she tripled her income by doing less. So make sure you guys stick around. All of these women who are sharing today have incredible stories and I know are going to inspire you. Tomorrow, is going to look a little bit different. So tomorrow I'm going to be talking about from 10:15 to 11:15, surrendering achievement to be propelled forward by God. So I would be sharing my personal story of how I overcame the hustle and really started leaning into more growing a business with peace and enjoying the journey along the way and teaching others how to do that. And then we'll do some breakout rooms where we get to mingle. So make sure you're on live for that. And then 11:15 to 12, I will be teaching you my ramp up system. So I'll be teaching you how to create rest to ramp up your success and why that is so important. And then we'll have a little break. And then from 12:15 to 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Jessie Harris Boughton, who is a former 300 mile per hour race car driver, world champion. She's going to be coming on and sharing her story of going from hustling and broke to freedom and multi-7 figures. She has not one, but 2 multi-7-figure businesses. One's a brick and mortar. So you guys are going to love to hear from her as well. Tracy, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hi there. It's so good to see you.
Hey,
Face to face.
so good to see you.
Yeah.
That last time we were trying to talk, we were trying to be face to face, and it didn't work, so we ended up having to be on the phone call. So it's great to see your face. I'm so happy that you're here. I am going to. So Deb and Tracy, you ladies already know each other. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you know each other?
From a local women's networking group.
Okay, cool. Okay, I need to get connected with that when I come to California.
Okay. It's
I will.
awesome. It's for business women of San Bernardino County. And it's actually, it sponsors a girl scholarship. So it's actually a really cool charity organization where women who are in business get to connect.
Very cool. I love it. Yes, we will. I'll definitely be chatting with you ladies more as I come into California. So Tracy, I am going to introduce you, read your bio, and then I will have you fill in any gaps that I missed, and we'll let you get started. So well, let me just pull up. I just had your bio and then I lost it.
All good.
See, I was trying to remember. I was like, how did you and I even? Oh, yeah. I was like, how did you and I even connect? That's right, through Facebook group. So fun. Okay. So Tracy Matney is a digital marketing expert. She is on a mission to share the immeasurable value of conversation. As a digital marketing expert with a passion for strategizing innovative ways to free entrepreneurs from marketing overwhelm, Tracy helps online business owners scale. Tracy founded Victory Point Social in 2016 and has worked with dozens of clients in several niches. Today, she has built a team specialized in scaling 6, 7, and 8-figure coaches who run virtual events like challenges, workshops, and webinars. In addition to owning the paid social advertising for a full lineup of monthly retainer clients, Tracy also offers one-on-one consultations, done with you services, chatbot templates, and DIY courses. She also shares her expertise as a powerful, tough love style speaker on topics including sales, marketing, and mindset. Integrity is at the forefront of everything Tracy and her team does, and she knows that in order to help her clients achieve freedom, excellence, communication, problem solving, and a desire to learn are a must. Tracy is a committed wife, homeschool mom, lover of Jesus, and a jazz dancer. I love that. I was like, oh, a jazz dancer.
Yeah.
I have no dancing abilities in my bones. Tracy, thank you so much for being here. I will open up the floor to you, and then we will have 15 minutes at the end of Tracy's talk to open up for any questions and have a little Q&A. So Tracy, the floor is all yours.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. And I think when we connected, you were looking for people who had like overcome some hustle and have gotten themselves into harmony. And girl, like we got to go way back to some stories that I'm going to tell you guys today about that. Because it's really just been a roller coaster. And I'm finally at a place now. Like the other day, I was actually on an interview and someone asked me like, so what biggest problem are you trying to solve in your business right now? And it was kind of an interview where they were trying to sell me a coaching firm. And I was like, honestly, I'm content. And I started crying and I was like, this is the first time that I felt content ever. And that is something that I've really strived for, is like wanting to have contentment, because like I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible teaches us to be content. It doesn't mean that we need to be passive and complacent, but like being happy and being in joy, like in where we are. And it's the first time I've really been there, because I've always been like hustling and trying to force things to happen. So I'm excited to kind of share a little bit with you guys today. I do have a few slides, not a lot, but it's more for pictures so you guys can see. So I'll share my screen if that's okay, if you can let me do that. And then I'll show you guys just some pictures of my family. And but you know, I'm going to talk a little bit about how I went from, you know, had an hourly, I would say a guilt-tripped, stressed out mom of a newborn, hustling at an hourly 9-to-5 job, to running a freelancing gig, like a side gig. And then I built myself up to 50 to 60 hours a week. And now I've gotten that craziness down to 10 to 15 hours, and I'm homeschooling, which is a whole nother job, by the way. It's like a part-time job. But I want to talk about how I leaned into my God-given strengths, and hiring amazing team members and mentors has helped me to get there. So
I love it. You should be good to share now.
Okay, cool. So you guys can see. that there. Okay. So first let me tell you guys a little bit about my family and I. So I have a husband, and my son is just turned 6. Today's actually his birthday. And so I'm really excited. He's so big. I'll show you guys a picture of him in a second. But so even though as I'm freelancing now as a digital marketing specialist, I've actually been in sales for 16 years. So I've been helping businesses learn how their customers think, where the customers are, how to market directly to them for really my whole adult life. And I started freelancing in summer 2018, got my first real client in October of that year. And then I quit my job the following May. So right after quitting my job and investing in like this big coaching program, it was a big stretch, my husband lost his job. So now we have no jobs, except for I had a freelancing side gig. I was about $4,000 a month, and I live in Southern California. So, you know, $4,000 a month doesn't get you too far. That was in May 2019. It was like, okay, the fire is lit, you know? So I started feeling like, okay, I've got to hustle. Like I've got to keep working. I've got to like really go crazy. And so fast forward to last month with all the craziness happening in the world with the recession.
Tracy, you froze a
Just
little bit.
sales. Oh, what happened?
Can you say that again? You just froze a little bit.
Oh, which part?
Just like that last little part about 2020.
Yeah. So last month, 2022, August 2022, I think is what I was saying.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
But we had our best month ever. So from May 2019 to August 2022, we did 54,000 in revenue last month. And so while I'm running a done for you agency, I'm focusing only on what I'm best at, which is sales, strategy, and speaking. And what's really fun is that I don't actually do the doing anymore, which is what was keeping me up at night, because I was so stressed out staring at Facebook Ads Manager, trying to create graphics for our clients, trying to like do reporting, trying to like follow up with, I mean, I was doing everything and I was trying to do it all myself. And I wasn't allowing people who are actually better than me at those things to do them. And so for me, freelancing was an amazing way for me to be able to get out of a job that was super stressful and, you know, be able to actually really work with clients that I love. That was a really great way, but it got to the point where I was like, well, I wanted to keep growing. So I kept hustling. I would pick up my son at daycare at like the last possible minute. Like we could have him there anywhere from 7 a.m. to 5:30. He'd get there around 8 every day. I would pick him up at 5:30. And sometimes it would be like 5:35. They charge $1 a minute, you know, if you pick them up late. So I was like pushing it to the very last second. And I was doing that because I was feeling like I had to do everything in my business. And so the reason I have this photo here is because I just recently got to speak at an event where there were 1,000 entrepreneurs, and people asked me, they were like, oh my gosh, like, are you like so nervous? And I'm like, no, like, this is what I do. Like, I was so excited. I didn't even really have to prepare all that much because I literally talk about marketing and sales all day, every day. So telling my story is a little bit different because I haven't like told this version of it. Like I'm getting like really raw with you guys. But like, if someone's like, Tracy, can you teach on marketing? I'm like, fine. I don't even need to prepare because I mean, of course I prepared a little, but I was like ready. And that was a whole different shift. You know, if someone had said, hey, can you come and like teach a class specifically on like the data side of Facebook ads, I'd be like, let me get my data gal to come do that. But if we're talking about strategy, about marketing, like that was super fun and easy for me. So I feel like as entrepreneurs, a lot of times what we do is we try to like do it all. We try to do all the things, and outsourcing becomes this thing where we feel guilty about outsourcing. And we feel like, oh, well, if I don't do it, my clients are going to be upset because they hired me, right? Like if I'm the salesperson, I'm in the sales conversation, they say, Tracy, I want to work with you. And so they hire me. And then I'm like out of the picture because they're working with my account manager, they're working with my ads team, they're working with my designers. I was feeling really guilty. So I would find myself on calls where my team members were in charge of that. And I jump in and I still have a tendency, I have to like keep myself on mute so I don't do that. But like they're actually better at it than me because they're the ones working with the client through emails all day, every day. So I jump in, ask a question, and they're like, yeah, Tracy, we already handled that. I'm like, oh yeah, You're right. So to me, a big way that's helped me not have to be hustling so much is really just hiring really solid people who are better and smarter than me in a lot of different areas, and not trying to like be a one woman show, because I already have a lot of jobs. I'm a mom, I'm a homeschooler, and a business owner. That's 3 jobs right there. Then you add in a wife. If I want to actually be a good friend, which I wasn't, I'll be honest. Like, let me stop sharing my screen here and we'll get a little personal here. So I wasn't a good friend, honestly. I had a son and I was working so much. Everything I did was either work or taking care of my son. And I mean, I hardly had time for my husband, and that sucked. Like, that's not really why I started a business. I didn't start a business so that I could work all the time. And last year I was at Funnel Hacking Live, and Tony Robbins spoke, and he talked about the 4 different types of business owners. And really, like, the first stage of business ownership is self-employment. He's like, you literally created yourself a job. So congratulations, you now have a job but you work for yourself. So it's better than if you don't want to be an employee. I don't know who's listening, so I don't want to offend anybody. If someone loves being an employee, I love my employees, they're amazing. But like, if we're talking to entrepreneurs here, having your own business, if you're the only person, a lot of times it's considered self-employment, which isn't bad. It just means that like you can't leave. You're kind of like if you leave, the business stops. And I was like, that is not what I signed up for, So I really started going, okay, how can I create a company, like an actual company, not just like I'm an independent contractor. And so I already had a team, but I was like stepping on their toes. And one of the gals that I hired really pushed back and really challenged me. And she was like, Tracy, you have got to stop interrupting on meetings. And I was like, all right, finally someone stood up to me, which is great because I'm the boss, like people don't want to do that. They're like, okay, Tracy, whatever you want to do. But when she did that, I was like, she's so right. She's so right. And I would constantly be on my phone. I mean, it's literally right here. Do we all not have our phones right next to us right now? It's like constant. It's constant. And so, yeah, my marriage was suffering. And at that time, we also opened up another business. We have a brick and mortar business that we opened in October of 2020. And it's amazing. It's super exciting. We'll do $1.5 million in sales this year, which is insane in a brick and mortar. That's not including anything online. And but having 2 businesses and 2 entrepreneur in a marriage really makes things kind of, I don't know how else to say it, a little chaotic. And so, and then you've got a little one in the middle who, do you think he's the little strong-willed little leader type? Yeah, that's what he gets that from his parents. So having that, and then me stepping into homeschooling, I was like, okay, now I'm a boss in another way. I'm not only am I parenting, but I'm also like this teacher role. And so it was really kind of stressful to have all of that happening at the same time. So I just worked more, honestly. I just kept keeping him at school longer because it was easier because I could control it. At work, I could control it because I was working mainly with adults and I could have adult conversations, and it was a lot easier because they were, trying to be professional. But when you're in a marriage and in your parenting relationship, you're closer with those people. So they don't put up with your mess as much, And so I'm not sure if I realized I was going to go here, but I did. And so one thing that we did that really helped a lot is hiring a coach. And we actually work with a couple different coaches who really like prioritize family and faith and have really challenged a lot. So one of my coaches, his name is Chris Rudolph. He specifically works with agency owners, and he's amazing at working with agencies. And he actually challenged me to park my phone, because do you guys do this? Do you wake up in the morning and then you grab your phone? Like, what do you start doing? Well, responding to Slack, emails, Messenger, Instagram, Facebook. Like, how many different apps do I have to check? Asana, like, to make sure that everybody's happy and all the things are going. If I start my day like that, it's like a whole mess. I get up late. I don't spend time with my son. I don't spend time in the Word like I want to. And that can be really, really frustrating. And so he was like, well, you should park your phone at night, because it sounds like the nighttime phone scrolling, that's a problem. And it sounds like you wake up in the morning and you grab your phone, that's also a problem. So what's happening if I get into bed, my husband and I are both there on our phones? Are we connecting? Are we talking about our day? No, we're not. So I started parking my phone in the kitchen at 9 p.m. Now, I'm not very religious with this, and I'm working on it and becoming more committed. But I noticed that on the days that I do that, I wake so much more fresh, because I fall asleep faster because I haven't been on blue light right before bed. I actually read a book like I want to, and I have time to just talk to my husband because I don't have a phone to grab. So that's been a major, major game changer. So if you take nothing away from this whole thing, except this one thing, park your phone, just park your phone somewhere away from you, where you can't access it at night or in the morning until you do your thing. And if you're a believer, one of my friends called it the word before the world, and like spending time in the word before you take on the world. And I'm like, that's so good, especially as leaders. Like, we want to help and we want to solve all the problems. But honestly, if we're not like pouring into ourselves, it's no good. So Chris really helped us with that, and just really helping me spend more time in quiet thought and in reading. And he's like this really great morning routine that he's helped me develop. And I self-sabotage it sometimes, because I'm like, my flesh is like, okay, but I just wanted to like look a few more times, but so I'm nowhere near perfect on this, but it's definitely helped a lot. And then this year we found a program for couplepreneurs. It's called Couplepreneurs, and our coaches are helping us with that. And so I think like they're helping us manage two different businesses with two different goals. Because what happens if my client's ads stop working and my team needs me to jump on, and then my husband has an employee who doesn't show up, so he has to go fill in? Whose business takes priority? Like, how do you pick? Because somebody's got to still be with our son, because he's not like at public school all day, right? And so it's helped us like just have those kind of conversations, which has helped a lot. So we've come a long way as business couple entrepreneurs, but highly recommend investing in a coach who, like Cherie, who can help you with anything that you're doing, like anything that you're struggling with. I've never in my entire business career done it all by myself. I've always had a coach. In various seasons, I've had different needs. I've had, like the business coaching, or I needed a little more sales acumen, or I needed more help with like the couple stuff, mindset. Like, there's all different seasons. I've always been in different ones, but I always have somebody that I can reach out to. So I'm not always trying to figure this out by myself, So that's something I wanted to talk about. Sure, you look like you were going to say something.
No, I wasn't. I'm just like, oh, I'm loving this, loving it. I definitely have some things I'm going to pull out at the end of your thing. Okay. You're doing great, so keep going.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I thought you were going to say something, but totally feel free to interrupt me at any point you want to. Okay, so I want to tell you guys, I want to go back a little bit in my story, because this is me this earlier this summer, but I want to go all the way back, like all the way back to 2009. Okay, so this is like the most hustling I've ever done. Do you see these pictures here? This is Tracy 2009. That 2009, like right after the recession started in 2008, the US was in the biggest recession since the Great Depression. And I was selling $300 books door to door in Michigan. So it was the very heart of the unemployment swell, where everybody was being laid off and everybody was struggling. And the reason I want to share this story and why it's relevant now is that every single marketing situation, sales situation I find myself in, the things that I learned that summer are still helping me now. And so I want to teach you guys a couple things that I learned about mindset and just about sales and about people and about communication. So that summer, I was 20, and I just turned 21. And so while all my friends were 21 and they were in college, they were working at bars and like hanging out with friends for the summer and really just having a good old time. I was like selling stuff door to door. It was 80 hours a week. So we knocked on our first door. We had to knock by 7:59 a.m. We knocked all the way till 9:31 p.m. And it was so regimented and specific to teach us discipline and practice. I mean, it was all independent contractor. There's no like requirement, but these were like the ones who were the successful ones, that's what they did. So my car was getting dirtier and dirtier with comfort food wrappers from being so stressed. And I swear my face was bruised, like my ego, from all the doors slammed in my face, or people with like a, oh, honey, we're just not interested. Like almost that hurt more than the get off my lawn people yelling at me, like the sweet mom with the lemonade. You want some lemonade? I'm not going to buy anything, but would you want a cookie? Like that was just like, yeah, but you're so nice. Can you just, say yes? Like it was so hard. And so like it was rejection after rejection, walking and driving for hours. I was living with a host family. The reason you go to Michigan is because you get away from your environment to really, it's like a business boot camp, really just get you outside of your comfort zone. And I was like literally hating everything about every day, except for the lemonade and cookies. That was nice. But I was getting more and more fed up with just like closed doors, rolled eyes. And I'm sure you guys have felt this way. If you're trying to get clients, whether you're a coach or business owner or whatever, it's like frustrating whenever you feel like what you have is so good. If they would just listen, if they would just take advantage of it, and I was selling these books that I'm like waiting for someone to, I have a kindergartner now. I'm waiting for someone to come sell me one at my door. I'm like, hello, I will give you cookies, lemonade, and I will buy it. So come on, and so I'm like, these books are so good that I really wanted people to like know how good they were, but they just weren't. They would just not even give me the time of day and they would just reject it, And one day when I was 10 hours in, I had just cried in my car thinking about, how I had like wasted my summer and I was feeling like I was, should have been back home doing a regular like marketing internship. I was dreaming of the photocopies my friends were making and their marketing internships, the coffee they were bringing to their boss, and they were all cushy internships. My back was killing me. And I noticed this nice looking man in his driveway. And by nice looking, I don't mean attractive. He literally looked like he was going to be nice to me. And I needed that more than anything. So I approached him with what I felt like was probably the last smile I had that day. And he had his little boy sitting next to him. He's like a little 4-year-old boy. And he gave me this friendly smile. And so I started my pitch and I'm rambling on and on about books and I'm talking all about myself. But then all of a sudden, he was screaming at me. You are so stupid. Why are you doing this? You're wasting your summer. You should go get a real summer job. Now, I had chosen to study marketing at Baylor, Silicon Bears, by the way, because I was fascinated by consumer behavior. I knew that if I could get inside of consumers' heads, like I knew I could understand how they think, then I could make anyone buy anything, as long as the product or service solved a real problem for them. So fast forward back to 2009, when it was time for me to get a marketing internship, most of the ones out there were just making copies. They weren't learning anything about customer experiences. They weren't like learning innovation or, impacting anything. And for me, impact was really important. I knew that like I needed to make an impact. I didn't want to be just like a cog in a machine, And so one day when I was offered that crazy summer job that I probably would have never considered, straight commission, business boot camp, to give me marketing and sales experience, I chose it because it was hard, because it was going to give me face time with customers and real life communication skills. And thinking back, I had like 2,000 sales conversations that summer. That's like lots of sales opportunities, lots of opportunities to screw up and learn. And so I like to really challenge people. If you talk to like 10 people about freelancing or about coaching or whatever it is that you do in your business, you got to keep going because you got a ways to go. You got to keep talking to more people, and failing is okay. And the fact that I'm here now and feeling like excited and content in what I'm doing, that's because I put in the effort in the beginning, and I really learned a lot and I failed a lot. Like I made a lot of mistakes. And so the best way to me, what I've learned is to get results is experience. So you have to keep experiencing. So when that man was screaming at me, "You're so stupid. Why are you doing this?" Something in me snapped and I stood tall. I told him this kind of experience was exactly what I wanted to do with my summer. I said, I chose this because it was hard. Like I wanted to do something hard so that I could learn and grow from it. I'm like this 21-year-old college kid standing up to this grown man, and I just felt so bad that his son was sitting there next to him, hearing him talk to people that way. And I promised myself, A, I would always be kind to people, no matter how they were. B, I can make decisions for myself, and I can decide how my future is going to look. And that was really important to me. And it's always really like stuck with me in my business, is that I'm going to decide what I'm going to do next. And that like little bit of my coach calls it the guardian. you have this guardian inside of you. There's two good things, two ways to the guardian. One of them is like, you guard yourself to like stand up for yourself, protect yourself and all that. And that's good. And there's another part of the guardian that like sabotages you. And so it's gotten me in trouble sometimes because I haven't always let people in and like listened to my team or listened to my clients or my coaches. And so that summer when I learned, I committed to listen to them more. I realized that summer had been so miserable because I really lost sight of the reason I got into marketing. Like I would look at them and I'm sure they could see dollar signs in my eyes. Like they just knew that I was trying to make money, and that's not a bad thing. Making money's a good thing. You know, you can do a lot of good things with money, but that summer I wasn't like necessarily listening to them and asking good questions. I was just rambling on and talking all about myself. Which is what it feels like I'm doing right now, but you did ask me to come do this. So like, I definitely love to like, ask questions and feel like, okay, what are people struggling with? Because as an agency owner, yeah, I sell Facebook ads, but not every business owner needs Facebook ads. Not every business, that's not necessarily every strategy isn't going to work for everybody. So I think asking good questions has been a really good thing that I've done. So I took that skill set that I learned in every job after that. And I realized that like making an impact and seeing people's lives change. I mean, I could tell you like dozens of stories from that summer, but seeing people's lives change was really, really a critical piece for me. So 11 years later, I'm literally a new woman, and experiences that I had, and into everything that I do. And more about them, and I do the parts that I do, and then I let them do the rest of it. And so that's been a major game changer for me. So the other piece that I wanted to talk about a little bit was automation. And I think there's a lot of things that we do in our business where we feel like we have to do it manually because we feel, I don't know, guilty about doing it with automation. And so I wanted to kind of touch on that for a second, because we do chat bots, and I don't know if you guys know what chat bots are, but it's an automated conversation in Messenger. And because there's so many like spammy people out there, like pitching, do you guys get those cold messages in the DMs where it's like somebody send you some cold thing, you can tell they didn't even look at your profile? Like that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about those kind of messages. I'm talking about if you're running a challenge or a workshop or you're doing anything like that, and people want to be reminded and all that, we set those up as an automated conversation. And people actually really like it. They like getting an email reminder when something's about to start. They like getting a text or a messenger message. So I think we have to stop feeling guilty that we're using marketing tools to help save us time. Like if we're a mom and a business owner and a homeschooler and whatever, like we have to figure out a way to like still serve people and still serve our team and our clients, but also not like make ourselves go crazy because we feel like we have to manually do everything. So nobody gets mad about email automation. Everybody knows we send out emails to our email list, right? But I think sometimes people feel like, okay, well, I don't know if I could use automation too much because it doesn't seem genuine. So I think making sure that we are genuine in our initial messages and we let them know honestly, like, hey, you're going to get some automated follow-up. It's going to help save you time, save me time so that I can serve you best. So that was another little point I wanted to, it's okay to automate, So I think there was more we were going to talk about, but if there's anything else, sure, Anna, you might have some follow-up, but I don't know how deep you want to get into homeschooling and all that. But.
There's just so much goodness in that. So many things that you pointed out, Tracy, that are so similar to my clients that I work with, to other entrepreneurs that I talk to. So I want to kind of just like pull out and recap a couple things that you mentioned. One, like you talked about, my marriage was suffering, like my kid was in daycare all day. And you had said, when you were talking about your sales, the book sales in Michigan, you said, I can decide how I want my future to look. And so I'm guessing that experience, when you were in that like hustle, like my marriage is suffering, my I never see my child. Like, I'm just working, working, working. And you look around and it's like, well, why? Like, what am I doing this for? What's the point? What's the purpose?
Mhm.
And you realize, like, no, I get to make the decision. I get to take ownership on what my life is going to look like. And so you hired the coaches and the people that you needed to make that change. And one of the biggest things that I hear that you shifted in, and this is where this is the mentality, whether people are at 6 figures, 7 figures, 8 figures, and you would think that, you know, at multi 7 figures, you're acting as a CEO, but a lot of times people are not, especially women. They're not automating, they're not delegating, whether it's in their business or their house, right, in their life, because of the guilt, because of the shoulds, because of what somebody else said. And so what I hear is you really took on that CEO role. Like, I am no longer going to be doing in my business. I am going to act as a CEO, right? And the CEOs don't do the doing. They oversee, they're the visionaries. And if you want to be a doer, then that's more of an employee job, right? And so if you're in this place of feeling like you're hustling, a lot of times it's because people are not in their true zone of genius. And so that's what you said, like when you got on stage and people were like, are you nervous? You're like, no, I freaking love this, right? Because it's easy, and it's easy because it's your zone of genius. And a lot of times people get stuck in the, well, why would I outsource it if I can do it, right? I'm good at it. So like, why would I outsource that? That's just taking money out of my pocket. When in reality, if you outsource the right things and you learn to really manage your energy, it actually increases your revenue. So Tracy, will you just touch on that a little bit of like, did you see shifts in your profits and your revenue when you, because that's a big fear for people, guilt, fear, right? But that fear of like, oh, but that's taking money out of my pocket. It's going to take away from my bottom line. No, it's not. It's actually going to add your bottom line. So can you touch on that a little bit of what you saw with that?
Sure. I'm really glad you brought this up, because when I look at like revenue versus profit, those numbers have changed over the last several years. Because when you first start out and you're doing everything yourself, sure, your profit is like massively like 95%, right? Because you only have to pay like, well, minus taxes, but you only have to pay like a little software fees, and then you add team, and it does change over time. But this year, 2022, we'll do just a little bit more, maybe 10% over our revenue from last year. But I went from 40, like I think I was at around 40 hours a week last year to 10 to 15 hours a week this year. So if I look at it like overall, no, I haven't increased the total dollar amount that I'm paying myself per month, but per hour, like of time invested, I mean, it's 3 times as much if you think about it. You know, if I'm working 15 hours instead of 40, you know, that's pretty
And
exciting.
long-term growth and sustainability over time, that's going to continue to increase.
Exactly.
Versus if you were to continue on the trajectory that you were on of working 60 to 80 hours a week, like your body can't sustain that over a long period of time. And that's when it starts to shut down. And Megan, who is next, she's going to talk about like, she actually had physical symptoms going on. But that's what happens. It's like, you can only be in the hustle for so long. Your body can only tolerate it for so long. And so like, we get so stuck in the right now that we forget to be like, but wait, where is this taking me in the future?
Yeah.
And so I love that you were like, no, I don't want my son in daycare all day. I want to homeschool him, but I can't add that on top of what I'm already doing. And so what are the things that I need to shift and change? And so a lot of those that I heard you say are automating, outsourcing, delegating, and the mindset around
not just the cheapest people possible either. I mean, that's the other thing is like, I think a lot of us go, well, we only have this little amount, so we need to hire like a low person who doesn't have the skills or training because that's what I can afford. Like I'm actually this, I don't know if I can say this, it's recorded, but whatever. I'm hiring a person full-time, like my first full-time employee, and she's in Houston, and I'm super excited. We've been doing a paid, like I'm paying her hourly right now as she's ramping up to full-time, because I promised myself I would only do paid projects for people before I hire anybody. And so it's super exciting. Like I have a lot of part-time people and I have a couple full-time contractors, but this will be like first full-time W-2 employee. And I think it's really, really important. I mean, she's got 30 years of experience, and I'm willing to pay more because I know like she's going to do a massively better job than someone who, just because they were like, you know, a little cheaper, it's not necessarily the best thing.
and what is that going to cost you sometimes that ends up costing more money, right? Time, because you're having to deal with skills that they can't do or deliver on, all kinds of things there. So I love
I
that.
still have to jump back in. Yeah.
And the thing is too, is that I hear women at this level are having is a lot of times they don't know how to hire, right? You start a business because you're good at something. And it grows until the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I need help, but they were never given the skills to hire. And there are so many companies, there are people out there, there are women who have companies who will help you hire the right person. Integrate Up is one. Another one, Kelsey is her name. I can't think of her. And actually she, for those of you who registered, whether you're on live or you're watching the recording, when you registered, you were given some freebies. So Tracy mentioned her chat box. That's one of them. There's another one in there. Kelsey helps you like figure out what to delegate and hire out. And so learning like, and sometimes people hire the wrong person thinking like, oh, I need a VA, when really you need an online business manager, or maybe you just need a graphics person, right? And so having like an outside perspective of somebody to help you know who to hire and how to hire, and like paying somebody to help you, because it's going to cost you in the long run, right? And so we end up just trying to like figure it out and do it ourselves. But if you are at a place where you are wanting to scale your business to whatever level that is, like these are really important things to start to look at and to take into consideration. Tracy, do you have anything you want to say on that? And then I wanted to open it up to Deb and see if she had any questions. And then any of you that are watching the Facebook Live, if you guys have any questions, go ahead and drop those in the comments and the live video, and I'll look at those and we'll put them out to Tracy.
One thing I didn't touch on, but has been a game changer, and it's just become something I've had since my son was born. And I forget that it's like such a blessing, is I have a mother's helper, and I've always had a mother's helper since he was born. And because when he was first born, I wasn't allowed to have my son near me at all. I did work from home, but I wasn't allowed to have my son close to me at all, which was really hard because they were like,
working for somebody else.
Yes. And they would say like, oh, well, if you have a baby sound in the background, that's like really unprofessional. And so, we can't have that. And so I would have like 11 and 12-year-old girls like from my church that were homeschooled, which is why like homeschooling kind of became like this thing that I thought about. And so like they would come over, it was like $5 an hour because they're like 11, and it was just like a fun little extracurricular, and it would help me. And so now I have someone who comes 10 to 12 hours a week. She's a college student, at $16 an hour, where she comes and like, she'll make breakfast, she does laundry, she does dishes. Like, so I can wake up in the morning, do my quiet time. My son gets himself dressed and I go downstairs and we just get to have breakfast together, and it's like, I don't have to do that stuff anymore. And I take it for granted, and I really shouldn't. But like, it comes out to like $500 a month, like to have like all that house stuff like that normally you have to do and stress out, especially even if you take your kids to school, it's stressful in the morning. So like, get them ready, make their lunch, get them out the door. But if all I got to do is like, just go and enjoy breakfast and then take them to wherever we're going, like that's so much.
And that, oh my goodness, there's so many moms, especially, who would have like, oh my gosh, I can't do that. The guilt around that, right? Of like hiring somebody else to come in and make breakfast or make meals. And it's like, this is where you need to understand, like, what do you actually want? What actually matters? And what matters is that you get to sit down and have breakfast with your son.
Right.
And you get your quiet time that's filling you for your day, so you can be better for your family, right? But especially women, we get so stuck in but what are other people going to think? Who gives a crap what other people are doing?
And they have criticized me. I'm in a mom's group, and I heard someone tell me that they were talking about me, and they're like, wow, Tracy has a mother's helper and she only has one kid. Like, I have 4 and I handle it. I'm like, that's fine. But like, I actually really hate sitting and cooking something while he's sitting there. And then I'm eating while I'm like, it's just on the day she doesn't come, I'm like, what am I doing? So I'm like, okay, my goal is to get her to 5 days a week. But she's in college. So, but it's like $500. Like, I'd rather pay somebody like that $500 a month to come and do that versus like paying somebody else in my company to do things. Like, it's a whole lot more cost effective to outsource the things you do at home than it would be to like hire another graphic designer, or for me to hire another person in those things. So,
yeah. And that's why it matters what you really understanding what you value and what your priorities are, not what somebody else's are, not what somebody else is going to think. Because that's what happens is women get stuck in the, well, this is what the expectation is, or this is the expectation that society has said I should do, or whatever it is. But like understanding what drains your energy and what gives you energy. And like when you understand that, it's a game changer, and understanding your values is so, so important. So so good, Tracy. Deb, do you have any specific questions or things that you want to say or comment on?
No, and I just have a couple little things, but I remember when Tracy was starting to talk about having someone there helping at the house, and that is brilliant, and it's brilliant on a couple different levels. I like it too because the younger girls, it's teaching them some responsibility, it's giving them some money at an early age, and then the older, because you know, a lot of times when we were in school, there was home ec, and there was these things that taught these attributes that really people aren't learning anymore. And so, you know, I think that there's a lot of value in a lot of different ways there. And I absolutely agree on automation. That is something that I have taken a step into. I pay a little bit more, but my goodness, the automation is doing 5 times what I could do, or the job of 5 people, you know, that it if you have it set up right. So that's wonderful. For people who are not, and I know a lot of your listeners are more of the higher scale, but I'm saying for people who are just beginning, but they obviously need some help and need outsourcing, what would you recommend for them?
So for me personally, I used to work specifically with mompreneurs who were trying to scale to 6 figures. And I'm a big fan of trading services. And so our local networking group here, I did a presentation and they were asking about that. Like, well, I literally can't afford it. Okay, that's fine. But you can either one, get an intern. There are so many colleges around and people looking for internships. So what are the things that you could outsource to an intern where they get to learn on the job? And also, I actually had a college intern that did my social media for a while because I'm not a fan of social media. It's like not my, I love connecting with people, but like content creation is not I do not like content creation. So that's usually one of the things I outsource. Trading services. And so in our specific like networking Facebook group here, they do like a monthly thread of like, what are the things that you need and what can you offer? And so people are like, oh, I'm a massage therapist. I need help with XYZ, whatever. Oh, Megan is coming on, so I'm just going to add her here real quick. So there's a lot of different ways you can delegate to your family, right? To your kids, to your husband. And there's a lot of guilt around that. A lot of times for especially women who are just starting out in business, especially if you're moms, there's a lot of guilt around asking for time to work on your business. And then also asking like your kids, your husband to do stuff. But you have to think like big picture. What is the goal of this? What are we trying to get to in the end? And shift the perspective of like, how is this actually helping all of us? And you're teaching your kids, whether they're 5 or they're 13, right? They need to learn certain things. And so you are helping them. And so it's all about like changing the perspective. Tracy, do you have anything that you wanted to say on that?
I think that's really smart for sure. I think networking in online has helped me too, because I've made connections with other women and I kind of see what they're doing. So I can kind of like follow them and see what they're up to. You know, for me, I like to have people who are of that employee mindset. So they're loyal and they're committed to working with me. And I've had some success working with freelancers who have their own businesses. But for me, like the most success I've had with team is people who are like dedicated to our business. Because sometimes like they have multiple clients and sometimes they don't give enough full attention that I like to have. So, you know, recently I'm connected with the Free Mama community. So a lot of the free mamas, many of them are entrepreneurs and I've worked with several of them. I send them leads all the time. But I've also, this gal that I'm about to hire, I found her from there because she wanted to have her own business. And then she realized it really wasn't for her. She loves working under somebody else. And actually it's perfect for her personality. So I just connect in Facebook groups and that's how I found my team so far.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Oh, good. So good. Deb, did you have anything else?
I got a lot of golden nuggets, kind of affirming some stuff that I've kind of known, but no, I really truly believe in that. Like, don't be guilty. And I had heard that before, that like figure out what you do best and then hire, barter, whatever, get the best person you can afford, even at that time, to do those other things that are, that is in their wheelhouse, that is what their jam is. So yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I think that's great. And I'm in a position where I'm doing some changes now. I'm going to be going not so much local, but I'm looking to work more on a national level. So things are kind of changing a little bit for me, and I'm analyzing what that's going to look like and how to work with those team members.
Awesome. Very good. Well, Tracy, thank you so much for your time, for being here. You're welcome to stay on with us. Obviously, Megan has joined us, and she's going to be starting at 11 o'clock. So we are going to take a quick, I know I didn't have this in there, but since we are, we're a little ahead of schedule, we're going to take a quick little 5-minute, bathroom, water break, whatever you need to get. Jen, welcome. Thank you for being here. And then we're going to come back on. I'll introduce Megan, and then she is going to share her story. So 5 minutes, let's be back at 10:03.
I
Yeah.
feel so bad. I feel so bad. I did not show the picture of my family. I'm like,
Oh,
all about that. Do you mind if I share that? real quick?
yeah, go for it.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how terrible. Okay, there they are. They're the same perfect little family. That's a joke, by the way, because nothing is perfect, but
Oh, look at
anyway.
that handsome little guy. Oh, your little doggy has a flower in her hair.
Yeah.
How cute.
Yeah, she's crazy.
Aw.
Anyways, I just had to
Well,
share.
and I just, Tracy, I just wanted to say, I appreciate you just getting really vulnerable with us. I know those are not easy things to talk about, but these are the things that women are struggling with. And the more we can talk about it, the more people understand, like, oh, I'm not alone in this, and there is hope and there is change. And this is how I can do it. So I really appreciate you coming here and just opening up. I know there were some things that you didn't want to share, but I think that's really what needed to be shared. Those are the things that people need to hear and understand.
Yeah,
so I appreciate it.
Thank you. All
Awesome.
right.
Are you staying on with us, or do you need to hop
Yeah,
off?
I'm going to stay on for a little bit, and then I'll
Okay.
have to pick up my son in about half an hour for his birthday lunch. So.
Yay. Okay, so we are going to come back on. We're just going to take a quick 5-minute little bathroom break, and we'll come back on and introduce Megan and get her started. Okay. We'll give a few more minutes before we hop back on, but once you guys get back, go ahead and turn your screens on so I know you're back, and then once everyone's back on, we'll get started. Hi, Megan.
Hello.
How are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
I think I saw I was on Instagram this morning and I was like, oh, Megan's on another. You're all over the place this morning. You were on another live or something.
Was I?
Or maybe it was
I
a
don't know.
recording thing.
Oh, it was. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just assumed.
Yeah. That was repurposed content.
Gotcha. Okay. Gotta love the repurposed content. I was like,
Yeah,
oh, she's
but
live right now.
I am kind of everywhere too at the same time. So all good though.
Jen, do you want to introduce yourself since you're just hopping on? Jen, are you there? Maybe she stepped away. So I will read your bio and then we'll let you get started. So I did a Hustle to Harmony Summit just over a month ago, and Megan was there for that one. That was the first one, and really great feedback. Megan has an amazing story, so I'm excited for you guys to hear from her. I'm going to just start with reading her bio, and then we'll let her have the floor. So Megan Huber is a client retention and group program leadership specialist. Client retention and group program leadership specialist Megan Huber transforms coaches, consultants, experts, and their teams into world-class group facilitators who design and deliver unforgettable experiences so their clients can remain satisfied, get incredible results, and keep coming back for more. Megan combines her years of service in public education, athletic coaching, group program leadership, entrepreneurship, and her ability to create sustainability and scalability through the right structure and leverage as a way to empower business owners to remove themselves from the day-to-day of delivering their group programs while clients still implement and get great results. We were just talking about that with Tracy, removing yourself from the day-to-day, the doing. In addition to spending 4 years as a director of programs and client success inside a coaching company with group enrollment as large as 300 clients, she has run over 30 iterations of her own group programs and has led nearly 20 in-person and virtual retreats. Hosting the Built to Last podcast and leading the Tribe of Legends Facebook group are two of her favorite ways to connect with high-performance entrepreneurs who choose to become her standout clients and transformational leaders inside their own best-in-class group programs. Thank you so much for being here, Megan. Happy to have you here. Chris Rudolph is joining us. Hello, Chris. Oh, it looks like he's just connecting.
Awesome. We have a guy in the
Megan,
house.
Yes. Tracy was just talking about.
I was just
Chris
talking about him. How funny. Yes.
Chris, welcome. You're amongst a group of females, but we're happy to have you here.
Awesome.
We
Great
just
to
heard
be
great
here.
things about you from Tracy, so welcome.
Well, thank you, Tracy.
Okay, Megan, the floor is yours. Go ahead and take it away.
Cool. So I believe we're talking about soul rest and pausing before the pivot, which is something that I experienced to the nth degree last year into the beginning of this year. So it's really fresh. And oddly enough, this is a question and a topic that I'm being asked so much to speak about because I have heard an incredibly high number of women, especially, who are, for lack of a better way of saying it, burning down their entire businesses, even 7 and multiple 7-figure businesses, because they have gotten to a point where they worked so hard to get to where they are. They did it in a way that was probably a little out of alignment, a little bit inauthentic. And I think oftentimes women, especially, we try to do things to prove a point. Sometimes we've got to prove that we can do it. We can make the money. We can do all the things. We can be the superhero. I think a lot of women, and I would definitely put myself in this category in the past, a lot of women are very driven by the fear of negative consequences. And when we are operating from that place, we're often operating from this place of forced effort versus inspired action. And for much of my life, now that I'm 40, I just turned 40 in June, but for much of my life, when I just sort of took stock of everything, I ran the majority of my life in that way, being afraid of negative consequences on the other side of not being perfect, of not being successful, of not being the achiever, ultimately of not being what I thought someone else wanted or needed me to be. Oftentimes as kids, especially as women, that starts between a relationship with our moms. And if I look back to my childhood, that is absolutely where it started for me. Oftentimes with men, it's the relationship they had with their fathers. And we see that happening a whole lot in sports. My brother was a professional baseball player. He was groomed to be a professional baseball player from the age of 6. He became that. And now he works with kids, teaching them hitting and catching lessons. And guess what the biggest problem is? The dads. I'm glad there's a dude here. He's got to kick him out because the son is in such fear standing at the plate. They can't actually reach their full potential because they're so afraid of what dad is going to say. I felt the same way with my mom around a number of things. And then that just like trickled on into adulthood and every single person who is an authority figure over you. So when we're operating from this place in an internal perspective, of course, it spills over into your business and you end up operating your business from that place. Now, I didn't know that that's what was actually running the show for me for so long. I didn't know that that's what was actually running the show for me in my business until I started to really peter out. And I noticed it in 2 distinct areas. Number 1, my health. Do not let being thin fool you at all. I've been thin and athletic my entire life, but sometimes we are the most unhealthy people. So I started having a whole lot of physical symptoms. I was having headaches 4 times a week. I was coughing a whole lot. I had a cough for 7 months, which was not the first time I had had a cough. I was insanely tired, abnormally tired, sleeping 10 hours a night. I was already a good sleeper. I always get like 8 hours of sleep, but I was craving 10, 11 hours of sleep, did not want to get up in the morning, felt like a slug at the gym, was losing a whole lot of my muscle strength. It didn't matter what I was doing, what I was lifting, nothing was changing at all. And I just felt kind of slow and sluggish in my body. And then I started noticing it in my brain. And I was having a really hard time focusing. I was having a hard time concentrating. The way I would describe it is it felt like I had foggy brain and I couldn't like make sense of things. I noticed it. I was having a hard time making decisions. But through all of that, I'm still running a business and I'm still working with clients and I'm still teaching my programs and I'm still showing up all the time through all of that. This was a couple of years ago and I just thought like, okay, well, this is the first time that I've been in my late 30s. I'm approaching 40. Is this what happens? I mean, I literally thought like, does it just go downhill and in this direction, in this way at this age? Like maybe that's just what it is. And I think you get to a point where you don't actually know it could be better. And that's really the place that I got to. I really got to this place where, well, I guess it's just the way that it is. It has to be this way. And I guess I'm going to feel this way for the rest of my life. And my husband, who was 49 at the time, this was a year ago, he's 50 now, he'll be 51 in December. My husband had a heart attack last August the 6th, that we just celebrated his year anniversary of having a heart attack. And, you know, that as a wife takes a big toll on you. It takes a toll on the whole family. It takes a big toll emotionally. But even through that, it was like, but I still have to be the strong one. I still have to be the fixer. I still have to be the one who's holding it all together. And again, I think that we have a tendency to do that as women. And I was doing that and all the time in every way. And then I got to the end of December last year and got really, really sick. I was in bed 16 hours a day. I could not function at all. Fast forward, and I found out I had a thyroid and an autoimmune issue, which probably happened from all the things that I just described. The overworking, the burning out, the pushing, the being driven by the fear of negative consequences. Running a lot of your decisions through the filter of, well, what are people going to think about me? How are people going to react to me? How am I going to be perceived through that? And it's not like I felt like a crazy person, but when I sat back and observed my thoughts, that's what a lot of my thought life was doing. It was a lot of external things that were causing me to, again, force the effort in that particular direction versus taking really great care of myself and going in the direction of inspired action. You just compound years and years and years of that and piling on more and more and more in that of that. It takes a toll on your body on the inside. And so all of those symptoms that I described a few minutes ago that I was experiencing, it was as a result of that. It was a result of operating my life in that way. Always considered myself to be a healthy person. We're healthy eaters. I've been a gym rat my entire life. I've been an athlete my entire life, but it doesn't matter if your thought life is what I have described today, which is probably why the majority of the planet is relatively sick. It's because of the thoughts that we're thinking and our nervous systems. And so especially the nervous system thing was something that was relatively new to me. So I found out I had a thyroid issue, autoimmune, a virus that was like lingering in my body, a fungus that was lingering in my body. Go to a naturopath, they'll tell you all the things. I went that route and it has like almost completely like reversed itself. So that was the thing that I guess I'd say like happened for me that really woke me up and invited me to reevaluate how I was, number one, how I was thinking, what I was being driven by, and why I was doing the things I was doing and the way I was approaching them. I have been in the coaching space for the last 11 years. So I kind of grew up as an entrepreneur over the last 11 years in the coaching space. And I'm sure it's much like most industries. It's the only business I've been a part of, aside from like dabbling in network marketing 12 years ago. But it's an industry where you're heavily paying attention to what everybody else is doing. You're heavily paying attention to everything that's going on social media. You are hiring coaches. I mean, I'm a consultant. You're hiring consultants. You're hiring coaches. You're in programs, one after the other, after the other, after the other. And you're constantly being sort of guided in these directions to go in and these constructs to fit into. And you just believe that, well, that's the way that it must be that way. I guess it's supposed to be that way. She's making $8 million a year. I guess she knows what she's talking about. I should do that too. Or you're paying attention to what everybody else is doing and how they're running their business and how much they're working and how they've constructed everything. And there is this thought in your mind that's like, well, I don't know any better, so I guess I'll go do it that way. And the comment that I made earlier a few minutes ago about we're seeing in like outrageous numbers, people literally shutting down their multiple 7-figure businesses literally overnight, having nervous breakdowns left and right because they're done with it. Now, I have observed this quite a bit, and I have a few theories on what I think is going on. And I think one thing that's happening is that so many of us were doing things in a way that was working really well. From a business perspective, from a financial perspective, what I have been doing from a financial perspective and a business growth perspective, it all worked. It worked. I made a heck of a lot of money, but at the expense of being slightly off. And when I say off, like slightly off with your expertise, slightly off with the way in which you would do things and how you would lead other people, but just so slightly off, like just so slightly that you can't put your finger on it and you don't know what it is. And so what you chase after is, well, how do I change the tactic or the strategy to make the money? Or how do I change the tactic or the strategy so I don't have to work as many hours? Or what do I change in terms of a strategy or tactic to attract more of the clients that I really want to work with? And again, it's all external. It's all external, but it's living on this internal foundation that is super, it's sandy. It's not solid at all. And so when you're trying to pile on all these business goals and business structures onto a shaky internal foundation and a shaky self-awareness, honestly, on a shaky mindset, it's not my favorite word, I'll be honest, for lack of a better word, it's not going to work. You think it works if you make a lot of money doing it though. And that's what's happened to a lot of folks is you think it works because you made a lot of money, but it doesn't last. And something will take you out. For me, it was the health stuff. Other people, they're having nervous breakdowns. Other people, they're losing their marriages. And I see it every day. I see it every day happening. So what I did last year was pause. So all of that really leads us to what is soul rest? What is this pause before the pivot about? And, I think that all of us are in the same boat in that we all experienced what we experienced over the last 2.5 years. And a lot of trust was lost by a lot of folks. I think the psychology of the marketplace has really changed. I think the psychology of a buyer has really changed. I think in particular in the coaching and expert industries, what people's expectations have really shifted. What people are looking for has really shifted. And we hear this term, the market is so saturated. I think that's like the most beautiful time in an industry, because when a market is so saturated, you got the greatest opportunity if you will find that opportunity for yourself. And so last year when I was experiencing all these health issues, I thought, okay, I've been feeling this way with my health. And by the way, I was also extremely frustrated in my business. I was really frustrated. I was frustrated with, I'll be really, really honest and transparent. I was very frustrated with the caliber of clients I was attracting. And it wasn't that I didn't love those people. What I finally recognized, took me about 2 years to figure this out, of being really frustrated. I was selling out. All my launches were incredible, making great money. People were coming to me all the time. But what I recognized is I wasn't able to use the ultimate level of my expertise. I was doing something that I could do really, really well, but people weren't able to access what I was the greatest at. And when you notice that, it becomes very painstaking to show up in your business on a daily basis. Now, since then, I've had a lot of clients go through something really similar. And what I discovered is, number one, I had to literally pause on hypergrowth, which meant I still had to deliver what I had sold, even like a year prior. And I still had like a year left on a lot of contracts with clients, and they were all in group coaching programs. But I had to pause on the launching. I had to pause on the aggressive selling. And when I say aggressive, like just constantly out there generating leads and constantly selling, having sales conversations, moving people into your programs, onboarding them. I had to pause on that because I kept trying to finagle with my launch format, my messaging, who my ideal client was, like all these things outside of me. But it never worked. None of it ever worked. And then the frustration is just mounting and mounting and mounting. When you let that go on too long, what tends to happen is you start deeply doubting yourself. I started doubting myself. I started really spiraling into this loss of confidence. I started worrying about things that I worried about when I was a brand new business owner and had $2 in my bank account and maxed out credit cards, which was not my situation anymore. But I was literally worrying as if that was my circumstance. I could not make a decision to save my life on what direction I really wanted to go in or what I needed to change. And so nothing was really changing, except I was trying to fix all these things externally. And I finally gave myself permission. Nobody told me to do this. I did not have a coach that coached me through this. I get asked that question a lot. And I said, you know what? I'm going to pause. I'm going to press the pause button on all the things. I'm going to deliver what I promised to deliver. I'm going to do it really, really well. And I'm going to get back into having the kind of relationship that I want to have with the people who live underneath the roof that I live under. And I'm going to get back to who I really am. And I'm going to get back to God leading my business for me. And I did not put a timeline on that. I knew I was taking a very big financial risk. I did not make close to the amount of money that I had made years prior because I paused everything. So I knew that lots of things were going to change in how I was operating in my life. I mean, we didn't really change our budget because we always live on a budget. So that wasn't really impacted. I had reserves financially, but it's still a massive risk. And it also hurts your ego because your status is changing. Let's be honest, we're all humans and we are all very driven by status, just in lots of different categories. All of us are. None of us are immune to that. We're very driven by status. It's just the kind of people who we are. And so I knew that that was going to change. And you have a lot of fears. You think my clients are going to leave me. My clients are going to think I don't know what I'm doing. My audience isn't going to trust me. You literally think the worst of what everybody is going to think about you. But for me, I had to get my life back. My marriage wasn't strained. My relationship with my daughter wasn't strained. None of that was strained. In fact, it was the best it had ever been. But I knew that it could get even better. And I knew that I was not putting that first in my life. I wasn't putting myself first. I wasn't putting God first. I wasn't putting my family first. I was putting my business and achievement first. And it doesn't mean that that's a bad thing. I just needed to find out a better balance for me that I was okay with living with for the rest of my life. Because the way things had been going, I wasn't willing to live with that for the rest of my life. So I put no timeline on that. I didn't say I'm only going to give myself like 2 weeks to figure this out, or a month, or 90 days. And I think that's what a lot of us do. We want to rush through things so fast. I was talking to one of my consulting clients yesterday, and I asked her a question. I said, I want you to describe for me your best clients and what they're doing and how they're showing up and what's really driving their results. And then I want you to tell me about your least favorite clients who are also not getting results. What's the biggest difference? And she said, the ones that aren't getting the results are the ones that are trying to rush through the program too fast. They go into the portal, and within 2 weeks, they've watched every video and they've read every module, and they don't take their time. And then they feel stupid, and then they feel embarrassed, and then it hurts their ego, and then they don't want anybody to know that. And so they stop showing up, and then they don't get the result. She goes, the one that get the results that stays with me longer are the ones who pace themselves. They're the ones who go slower. They're the ones who let the material and let the work really be integrated. And that's what I had done. I had tried to rush and push everything so that I could accomplish and, be at the front of the pack, so to speak. And so this was one of the first times in my entire life where I just let myself slow down. And the way I would describe it, and I've heard a lot of clients describe it in this way, they try to rush to figure out the answers. And it's important to understand that all the answers are inside of us. And I knew that. So I stopped pointing my attention out here and I started pointing my attention back here and up there. The problem was I had piled so much gunk on top of it that it had no room to actually reveal itself to me. So the best way for me to describe it is I couldn't access it. I couldn't access it as long as I was still doing all the that I was doing. And that's really where the pause came in. It was so that the gunk and the junk could be removed that I had sort of piled on so that it could make way for whatever was meant to be revealed to me. And I knew that that was going to happen in time. I just didn't know when, but I was just insanely, incredibly available to give myself that opportunity. Now, from a business and a financial perspective, you still have to be smart about that. I'm not suggesting that like you still have to pay your bills, you still have to deliver what you promised. It's not like I wasn't making any new money. I just started working with people one-on-one. I just stopped doing the big launches and all the things that I was doing out here. And I needed to take a little bit of a break from that. But you still have to be smart about your money. You still have to be smart about your cash flow. Again, you still have to pay your bills. Obviously, all of us have probably experienced financial stress. When you're under financial stress, it's the worst to try to make smart decisions and good decisions for your life because you're making them from like a different perspective. So you do have to be very smart about that. I would never just say like, go take a pause and don't do anything if it was going to put you in like unnecessary financial pressure. So I had that like pretty well figured out and I had forecasted things out. So I knew what I could do. I knew what was possible, even though I knew that it could also get a little crunchy at by a certain time. So I was really well aware of that. And what was ultimately revealed to me, again, it was sort of like this personal permission that I needed to give myself to operate in my ultimate expertise and not apologize for that at all. And, you know, kind of connecting the dots on what I've observed over the last 11 years in this industry and what I see happening right now is that, you know, I think people are using the word saturated because they think so many people are now in the industry making offers, right? And that is true to a degree. What I see is we have a bunch of people making the same offers. We have a bunch of people offering the same thing in the same old way that it's always been done. And that is starting to fall apart, much like a lot of what's going on in the world is just like, hey, the old way isn't going to work. And we've got to kind of go in this new way. That's a different story. I have opinions about that, but it happens in every industry. And what's really starting to work is, again, when you see this saturation point in an industry, you have the greatest opportunity. And I would say, like, don't pay attention to what anybody else is doing. Like, stop paying attention to what anybody else is doing and try to fit into that box, because that's where we're getting sick. That's where we're getting tired. That's where we're getting burned out. We're trying to fit ourselves in a construct that we think we should do and we're supposed to do because that's what we see everybody else doing. We do it in every area of our lives. We're humans. Humans by design mimic what they see. I was a teacher before, right? Like the way that a lot of people are operating their business, they're operating it based on the coach they worked with or the coach they saw. Most of us teach and lead the way our teachers, when we were K through college, we're teaching and leading and coaching and running our classroom, our clients in the exact same way that we saw that we were taught. That's what humans do. We all mimic. If you have kids, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And from my observation, that's what's happened in the coaching industry. We've got all these people now, but everybody's just mimicking everybody. Again, that's where your greatest opportunity is to really carve out something that is new, that is fresh. You have such an opportunity for innovation, and all of our audiences, including us as consumers, we're craving that right now. We're desperately craving something new, different, innovative, and fresh, but it's going to take a fresh, energetic, positive version of you to be able to carry that out. And so I think the last thing I'll say, that I'd love to hear like questions or have a conversation about this, and I'll stop talking. You know, I think for me, one of my biggest lessons was I was never going to be able to be the leader or the version of myself I knew I could be in my parenting, in my marriage, in friendships with other women, especially friendships with other women. I think that's something that's really challenging for a lot of women entrepreneurs at our age. Everybody I talk to, like, nobody has friends except their Zoom friends, which is that really friends? And so I think, you know, for me to be a great leader in all those categories and in my business and team and clients, I couldn't do that being the old version with all the gunk that was sort of piled on. And it took me a good, I mean, my pause probably lasted 9 months. I'm gonna get asked that question a lot. Like, how long did it take? 9 months to a year, about 9 months to a year. And that's a very scary response for people because they're like, really, 9 months to a year? And that's just what it took for me. That was just my journey. It may not be your journey. But I think for those of us who are being called to serve and lead in a bigger, bolder, brighter way, we've got to become the next level version of ourselves, not just in the business. It's got to be in every single category of life, or you're just sort of building something on like false ground. I'm not a big fan of the way you do one thing is the way you do everything, like term, because everybody says it, but it is still very true. It's very cliche, but it's very true. So if you are feeling called to shine in a different way, to go in a slightly different direction, you know, I'll call it a pivot. I knew that's what I was being called to do. I couldn't find the answers outside of me. The pause is what led me to that. When I kind of shut off all the noise and did life and did me and did home and did living and did business the way that I really felt guided to and convicted to and called to, that is when everything really shifted for me. And then it kind of birthed in the business, it birthed like I got a business partner and started a consulting arm to my business, which is not what I've done the last 10 years. And it feels amazing. It feels perfect. It's not what most people are doing. It's probably not what any business coach ever would have told me to do, but I don't really care because I know it's what I'm meant to be doing. So I'll end there, and I would love questions or conversation around this topic.
Oh, so good, Megan. So many good things. I have a couple of things that I wanted to say, but I wanted to open the floor up for questions, conversation. Deb, you had made a comment. Megan is describing me to a T. So I don't know if you want to elaborate or if you have specific questions that you want to be able to ask her. But if you have a question, just raise your hand, the little yellow hand there, and then we'll call on you and we'll go around. Anybody have anything? Okay, well, while we're waiting, if you guys have stuff, I just wanted to point out a couple things, Megan, that you said. One, I don't think people really understand. I know this was true for me, and Megan, I imagine it was true for you, is I don't think people understand or know that they're in stress, that they're working from a place of stress. They don't have that awareness until it's almost too late, right? You start having physical, mental, emotional manifestations that are like, whoa, what is happening? And you don't even realize why it's happening. And a lot of times it's because of stress, being out of alignment, doing things. And Megan, you said these 3 things and I wrote it down. You really had to analyze, what was I thinking? What was I being driven by? And why am I doing what I'm doing? And you and I have had this conversation, but this is so important to understand your personal values and your priorities, because when you don't, you are being driven by external factors and what other expectations, whether it's society expectations, coaches' expectations, whatever it is. And so I love those 3 questions. So like, that's a good takeaway for everybody, I think, is just ask yourself, what am I thinking and why am I thinking it? Where is it coming from? Where is the root of that stemming from? What am I being driven by? And Megan, you touched on this, being afraid of negative consequences. A lot of times it goes back to our childhood. And this is what I find with all of my clients that I work with, right? And a lot of clients are hard and they're scared to go there. It feels scary. But that's where it's at. That's where you have to get to, of like, why am I making these decisions that I'm making, and understanding that there's a deeper experience, issue, limiting belief, something there that is making you do the things that you're doing and the choices that you're making. And when you continue down that path, eventually you get to a point of burnout, illness, things like that. So, and then the third one was, what am I doing? And why am I doing it? Was that what it was? What? Why am I doing what I'm doing? So good. So like 3 takeaways, like ask yourself those questions. Those are all really, really good questions. Anybody have anything else that they want to bring up or touch on or say?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll just piggyback on that. All of that is about self-awareness. I mean, for any of us to change our lives or change our businesses or get what we want, to reach our goals, like whatever your language is, like none of us just want to have what we have. I mean, I think for most of us, not all of us, if you look at your parents' lives, I was talking to somebody about this the other day, and it's like, My parents are 73, almost 74, and literally nothing has changed. I'm 40, nothing has changed in 40 years. They talk about the same things, they eat the same things, they do the same things, they tell the same stories from the past every time I talk to them. Nothing has changed. And all that is real. I mean, that could be a few things, but that's a lack of self-awareness. And I know we're all entrepreneurs here or aspiring entrepreneurs. The more self-aware you can become, the greater business you'll build, the more impact you'll make, the more clients you'll work with. And to your point, like that's a really scary thing to look at because it requires you to be brutally honest with yourself, brutally honest with yourself. And what I started really paying attention to were patterns. That's where I always catch something in myself. And it could be, I mean, here's one, and this has nothing to do with business, but you show up like this in your business. So like I said, I grew up an athlete. I grew up in a very athletic household. My brother and I were both like very competitive in sports. And then I was always in the gym after that. I was a tennis coach in my 20s. My husband was a personal trainer when we met. He was my brother's personal trainer when my brother was in high school, which is how we met. It's a good story. And I've always been around sports and athleticism and working out. My husband pointed something out to me once I became an entrepreneur. And he goes, every time you go somewhere and you're not at home, like you go to a live event or you go on a trip for 2 days or like you do something, you come back and you're totally off your health routine. He's like, do you recognize like you stopped going to the gym as consistently, your eating isn't as good, you're not as consistent with your supplements, but you were before you went. And it would happen every single time. And I would have like some excuse or some reason as to why that was happening, but he was observing it as a pattern. And we have the kind of relationship where we point things out to each other and we're just really honest with each other and I don't get offended. And it took years of him saying that to me before I actually, the way I describe it, like observing yourself, it's like you take yourself out of yourself and you sort of look down on your life from a bird's eye view, completely unattached, free from judgment. And you just look at it and it's like, well, he's right. What is that about? Like, I don't necessarily need to know why that's happening. I need to recognize that type of thinking that's leading to that behavior is not going to get me to the version of me that I want to be. And it's not going to get me where I want to go in life. And so it all really starts for me with as soon as I recognize a pattern in myself, then I ask myself a series of questions. And luckily my husband's also a high performance coach and a hypnotherapist. And so I do have somebody like literally in my home that can kind of, reflect back to me all the time. So I'm fortunate with that, but that's where it does start for me. And it helps me become a lot more self-aware. Then I can make the change faster. It's not always easy, but.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That self-awareness. The other thing that you said that I wanted to point out was forced effort versus inspired action. And I think that's so important. And a lot of what I teach is mind-body connection. And so sometimes it's just having people simply close their eyes and like, what is creating the most stress? Like what's draining your energy and where are you feeling that in your body? And they go, oh, like that's in my neck or it's in my shoulders or it's in my back. And like, I didn't even realize that thing was making me feel that way. And it's like, when you have that awareness, you can go, wait a minute, like this might be a common feeling. This is not a normal feeling. Right. Mm-hmm. And then when you can start to become aware of the stress and the triggers and the anxiety that is not normal. Like I should not be there. Just because you are an entrepreneur does not mean that should be there. And that's forced effort versus inspired action. And that is what's happening a lot of times.
Yeah, because you have to take action.
Yes,
like
absolutely.
For anybody to be successful in business, like you are taking action and you're taking action frequently and very consistently. So it's never like you're not going to have to take action, but there's a huge difference in the place from which it comes from. It's huge difference. And I'll tell you, like one of the phrases that I started saying to myself was, how can I be a blessing to others today? Or like, show me how to be a blessing to others today. That would lead to the inspired action versus just showing up like, what do I have to do today?
Mm-hmm. Mhm.
And it was just asking myself a different question that led to it coming from a different place from within, but I was still taking action. And the result you get on the other side of that is also different.
Yeah, really good. Jen, sorry, not Jen, Deb, I see your hand up.
Yeah, so yeah, as you were talking through this, it's like I was a stay-at-home mom, and then like 07, 08, everything went crazy. And then my husband asked me for a divorce. And that was really a crazy time because I never went back to working full time. And I just had to kind of just had young kids. I had to put my head down and just, keep going. And so that's where I've been in a long time. Absolutely. My event side is my passion. And in the last few years, I've been able to focus that a little bit more. But again, 2020 happened, throwing us all crazy. So I really like what you're saying because it is showing up in my body. Like I didn't think, what's this going to look like in the future? And now, they're saying possibly fibromyalgia, all this weird stuff that nobody can actually diagnose. And I'm truly at a point, being very transparent that how do I have a job when my body is so broken right now? It's like I appreciate being an entrepreneur because I work when I can, take breaks when I need to, but I want to go to the next level. Not even want to go, I need to go to the next level. But not having that other person in the household, the finances fall on me. And so just recently, debt's starting to creep up on me and I'm freaking out.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking at some other opportunities. And I really love you just saying, taking a step back. Obviously, I have to keep some things going. So I have to look at what is making me income right now to keep me moving. But at the same time, kind of go back, reflect, look at those patterns, kind of more of a soul searching. I definitely like that. So no, definitely I think that was partly why I was drawn to this little seminar summit today is, just trying to figure out what's been going on is not working. And I definitely need to make a change.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Between Sean and I, my husband had a heart attack last year. If you saw my husband, your jaw would hit the floor. He's like the picture of health. My husband also had cancer. How many years ago now? It's when my brother knew him. So it was prior to me being in any type of relationship with him. So probably 20 years ago. We've been together 15, I believe. So, he's had a hip replacement. He's had knee reconstructed surgery. Both of those happened post 40, and figuring out like his body, post heart attack has been quite the journey. And then all the stuff that I described, I'll tell you again, like both of us were eating healthy before, but my husband has been in health and wellness his entire career. He's 50 years old. But when we started going to a naturopath, and I found out I had the thyroid and, we were finding out all these things about ourselves. And you do have to know like, what can your body take and what can it not? The biggest thing that has impacted my body, and I really understood this at a completely different level when I had to like shut down everything because I could not keep going the way I was going. I had to completely change my diet. And the only thing I eat is meat, vegetables, and fruit. And I'm not kidding. 0 dairy, 0 grains, which means no wheat whatsoever, 0 refined sugars. And I take a shit ton of supplements, but I go to a naturopath every 2 weeks and I have since February. I will have a flare up of something, not because I'm inconsistent with the supplements, because I introduce something like dairy 2 times in 1 week and everything reverses like that. So it's been very fascinating for me to feel it in my own body, to remove foods that she's like, literally, you cannot eat this because your body is like, no. And then reintroduce it and feel the effects of that. It's the most fascinating thing I've ever experienced.
I know it's got to a point where like, it's almost immediate when I have.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If I eat like a bite of sugar, it's like, oh, okay. And Sean has had the same experience. Like he can't eat any type of nut. He can't eat pork. There's just certain things that just completely throw his body off. And it's different for each of us. It's different for all of us. But if I had to say like one thing that truly does, and when we work with my parents a whole lot on this, because they've got all sorts of different issues. So do Sean's parents at their age. And we just have like really try to support them in changing diet. And that's tough to do. It's tough for all of us. Like Sean and I have conversations about like, could I just have like a piece of bread? Like, do you remember the days when you could eat like a piece of bread? Like, do you ever miss just like eating a piece of bread? Do you like miss like eating a cookie? And it's like, yeah, heck yeah, it sucks. It sucks. But it was destroying us. It was destroying us. And we were like healthy enough that like you almost didn't notice it, but you did. And a lot of those issues I was experiencing, it was food related too. So I would say, see if there's anything in your diet you could change.
Oh, we've
It changed my life.
I'm down to protein drinks, vegan-based protein drinks, salad, and very little meat. Yeah.
Yeah.
I really think a
food is
big part
huge.
right now is still just my stress levels. And I think
Yeah.
as that gets adjusted, things will get better. But
Yeah.
just some really good insight. I mean, it is just really wonderful to hear this and pick up, like I am picking up nuggets from everybody. Thank you.
Yeah. Good.
I will say stress is like so huge on your health and the symptoms. And I have like actual gluten and dairy allergy, so I'll never be able to reintroduce that. But my husband had gotten to a point where he was experiencing a lot of stress. He was losing a ton of weight. There was just like a lot of stuff going on, and it was all stress related. And so finally, when he got into, it took him a long time. It's hard, especially for men, to go see like a counselor. But once he did, he was like, oh my gosh, everybody needs to do this, right? And then it was this like shift of like, it didn't matter how much food we eliminated. It didn't matter what we did or how strict we were. Like there just wasn't a change until he was able to like talk through it and figure out, okay, like what is going on. And so if you're finding that like, okay, I've tried this elimination, I'm trying these things, it's not helping, addressing it from a stress standpoint, and getting help, whether that's a counselor or coach or whatever it is, that can be like a major game changer. And it can happen pretty fast. It does, I mean, it takes time, right, to like work through it, but it can also happen really fast if you do it the right way, and you have the right kind of support around you and helping you figure out like what's really the root cause of this. My background is sports medicine. I was an athletic trainer for 15 years and have a master's degree in sports psychology. And I'll talk more about this tomorrow, but this applies specifically for like kind of what you're talking about. If you don't identify what the root cause is, so if we talk about like injury, for instance, if somebody is having a chronic injury, say they have a chronic hip pain over and over and over, chronic ankle sprains over and over and over, and you just keep band-aiding it, right? Like you just keep strengthening the hip, but you don't actually dig into what the root cause of it is, it's just going to keep coming back and it's going to get worse and worse and worse. But if you can dig into the root and figure out what is actually the cause of this, and there might be multiple things, like, yes, we know it's stress, but why? Like there's so many layers to that, right? And if you can dig in and pull out those layers, having that self-awareness, then you can start to make change and have the tools and resources like, okay, this is what I can do when I'm feeling this way. And it really just comes down to a lot of that self-awareness and learning how to manage it in the right way. So,
And I love you guys giving feedback. And it's funny is back in the day, I used to do health education classes. However, when it applies to myself, it doesn't ring a bell. So
healthcare provider, terrible at self-care. Like I was really good at taking care of everybody else. And then I became a stay-at-home mom and I didn't know how to take care of me. I didn't like half the time I would catch myself not even breathing. And I never thought I was stressed because I'm like, just kind of like a happy person. But like when I started to really dig in and go internal of like, oh, wow, like this feeling, this like anxiety, this stress, this pain that I'm having in my body is not actually normal and it doesn't have to be there. But we a lot of times associate it. Culture, society says, oh, just take this pill, get rid of it. Just take this pill, get rid of it, right? When really there's a lot of layers and a lot of things going on that
Well,
But
and Megan, I appreciate that by seeing you and what you've gone through, that like, okay, there is another end to this, that, you know, there is some hope, because yeah, it's like, there's times where I'm like, oh my goodness, you know, what does my future look like if this is
Yeah.
where I'm at? So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely some changes that need to be made.
yeah. Yay. Awesome. Okay, so it is 11:47. So we are going to take our 15-minute break. Misty is going to come on and talk about going inward to create outward results. Deb, this will be a really good one for you too. She's and I'll talk about this again more tomorrow, but that's really what the retreats are for, is helping you step away from the busyness and really learn that like self-awareness. And Misty is amazing at that, and you'll kind of hear it in her talk. So she'll be a really good one to stick around for. Megan, are you sticking around or are you hopping off?
I have a call with a
Okay.
mastermind group next.
Thank you so much again for being here. Everybody always like takes so much away from your story, so I just appreciate your honesty and your vulnerability, and just laying it out and giving people hope that like
Yeah.
it does not have to stay this way and it can change. So
Yeah.
I appreciate you being here.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right.
Have a good
Bye.
rest of your day.
Thank you. You too. All right, Deb, we'll be right back. Hello, Misty.
Hello, hello.
Welcome.
How are ya?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Doing well.
We're actually a little ahead of schedule today. So originally I had you down to go at 12:15.
Okay.
So we can start early if you want to do that, and that way we have a little time for Q&A since you have to hop off a little bit early. I'll wait for Deb to hop back on. Deb, when you are back, if you get back, go ahead and hop back on. We had a couple of people hop off. Had one person join, but she saw that we were going on break, so she may be back. So we'll see. But I think we'll just get started early, and then I'll just embed her in
Okay.
if she gets here. So we'll wait for Deb to hop back.
I'm
on.
here. I'm just multitasking. So
Okay, perfect. I was gonna say, you feel free to have your screen on or off. I just didn't want to start without you because
okay, no, thank you.
I know you'll resonate with Misty's story, and I think this will be a really good one for you to hear. Okay, Misty, I am going to read your bio. I'm going to introduce Misty to all of you, and then I will let Misty take the floor. So first of all, just want to say thank you to Tracy Matney and Megan Huber, our first guests. If you guys are just joining us live or for the recording, make sure you go back and watch those. Those were really, really good presentations. And then Misty Springer is up next. Misty Springer is actually a part of the retreats that I host, which I'll be talking more tomorrow. You're going to love her. I just love her personally. I've been to multiple of her events and retreats, and what she does is just amazing. Misty Springer is a mom to 4 amazing kids and is transitioning into the next phase of life as her children fly from the nest. She has been married to the joy of her life, Scott, for 26 years. She is a life coach and mindfulness expert who is a lover of all things connected to God, goodness, and light. Her signature technique pulls from her unique background as a life coach, mental health therapist, and a health coach. She empowers women to release limiting beliefs and harness the power of their mind, body, and heart to show up confident and at peace in their business, body, and relationships. And I can personally attest to Misty being able to do this. So Misty, thank you so much for being here. I will let you fill in any gaps that you want to, and the floor is yours from here.
Thank you. Well, I am happy to be here. Glad to have Deb here. Glad to be here with all of you who are watching the recording. Just glad to be here with Cherie. I absolutely adore Cherie. The feeling is mutual. We've done some work together over the years, and it's always, I love her energy. I love what she brings to the world, and I just love supporting her and her important work, because it is important, and it is supporting so many women in going out and doing the things that they feel called to do. And that is really why you're probably here, is that there is something that you feel called to do, whether that is in the entrepreneurial space, or whether that is in your home, or whether that's in your community, or maybe you're just trying to figure it out, but you do feel a pull. You feel, I call it a little niggle. There is something that is pulling you out into the world, and it's something that is calling to you. And there's a lot of important pieces to your life, kind of like me. Gosh, there's never, my bio, I just had to giggle when Cherie was saying, I'm preparing as my kids leave the nest. As you may even hear them, I've got all of my kids packing right now, and we are driving to college tomorrow. I have 3 of my kids heading off to college. And so it's a lot of a transition right now. I'm even wearing a little necklace that my daughter surprised me with this morning as a little going away gift for me. It's just going to make me even emotional just here. So I'm holding a little bit of my heart right here on my chest right now with all of you, because like all of you, we have important work, not just in one place. We have important work in our home. We have important work out in the community. We have an important work that we feel called to do. And sometimes when we start to step into this version of ourselves that feels really important, that feels like, yes, there's something here, there's something more I'm meant to be doing. It can be beautiful and brutal at the same time. I like to use the word brutal because we're bumping up against a lot of fears and insecurities and doubts. And that is my specialty. That's what I love to do, is to help women access their zone of genius and show up as the woman they know in their heart they were designed to be. And also to work through those limiting beliefs and those little voices in our head that hold us back. And so what I do, and Sheree mentioned this in the beginning, is I help women to move out of their head and into their mind and their bodies. Because oftentimes we try to figure things out in our head, and it feels like we're running around in circles. It feels like we're on the treadmill running fast, going nowhere. It feels like hustle and not harmony. And so what I have found in the work that I have done in my own journey, as well as in helping hundreds of women through one-on-one coaching and speaking and retreats, is I really help women to get out of their head and into their mind and body so that they can access that harmony, because that's where our answers are found. That's in the harmony, in the aligned action. That's where we are motivated to move forward. So that is what today is all about, is how to start moving forward in aligned action from a place of harmony, rather than the push of hustle. So I'm going to start just a little bit with my story. Sheree asked me to share some of my story. And I think actually I love hearing the stories of women who are out there doing their important work, because we need to hear possibility in other people's stories. That's what's so beautiful about hearing the experience that other women have, is that it creates possibility, it creates belief within ourselves. And everything we do is generated by the belief. So the stronger our belief, the more willing and more able we are to go take action. So hearing other people's stories is actually a really powerful and beautiful part of building that belief. So about 13 years ago, I sometimes say I started coaching before coaching was cool, because nobody even knew what coaching was when I started coaching 13 years ago. But it felt like a calling. It felt like something I was meant to do. And so I jumped in with both feet, and it was how I approached every other goal that I had set for myself in my life, which was read all the books, make all the plans, write it out, make sure I'm going 100 miles an hour, put all of my effort, all of my time, and go, 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 go. And then I get the result, right? Like that's what I thought was going to happen. And I did all of that. I read all the books. I got the coaching. I listened to all the podcasts. I mean, I think for years, you wouldn't find me without some sort of like AirPod. I don't even think there was AirPods back then. Some sort of something in my ear that was feeding me information, because I thought that if I just had more information, then I would be able to create what I wanted to create. And I didn't. It felt like I was running as fast as I could, but on that treadmill, right? Running as fast as I could, expending so much energy, doing everything that I thought I was supposed to be doing, and going nowhere fast. And it felt really, really frustrating. And the only thing that kept me going when I wasn't getting the results that I want, when the clients weren't coming, when my business felt stagnated, when it felt like, why am I putting so much time and effort into this when it's going nowhere? The only thing that kept me going was my desire, was that little niggle, was that calling that felt like this is what I'm meant to be doing. In fact, I would sometimes call them text messages from God, because I literally would be sitting there saying, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. And I would get a text from a former client saying, don't ever stop, like literally in that moment, don't ever stop doing what you're doing. What you're doing is making a difference. My life is forever changed because of you. Like every single time I tried to back away, there was something that was calling and pulling me forward. That may not be something that happens every time, and it doesn't happen every time for me, but there was something there. There was something pulling me forward. My desire, that little niggle that said, yes, you are meant for more, kept me going through some really hard times. And I'm also really grateful for the pain. I'm really grateful for the frustration of running into this brick wall and running into it again and again and again. Because what do we do when we don't succeed? We try doing the exact same thing, just harder, right? So I was still trying to create all the plans and find out more information and hustle. And I just ran so hard into the brick wall, I had no choice but to stop and do it differently. And I'm so grateful for that, because the thing that I learned, and now that I teach my clients, is pain. That pain of running into that invisible brick wall was an opportunity to pay attention inside now. PAIN. Pain is an opportunity to pay attention inside now. And that pain can show up physically. I had physical pain. I had digestive issues. I wasn't sleeping. There was all sorts of issues going on in my body. So physical manifestations of the pain and emotional manifestations of the pain. When I paused, when I learned how to listen to the symptoms that my body was presenting to me, that's where I started to learn a different way. I remember one time I was at a retreat. It was a retreat that I had gone to. I just felt pulled to it. I actually call it an emotional boot camp, because that's kind of how it felt like. It was just like, whoa, like fire hose of emotion. But in that retreat, they had us go out and have some quiet time in nature. And I remember standing on the beach and watching these swallows swoop and dive, and it just looked like they were dancing. And I remember thinking, that is what I want. That's how I want to live my life. I want to live this life of swooping and swirling and dancing joyfully through life. And in that moment, I had a little download, a voice of message and inspiration from God that said, Misty, they're doing their work. Right now, they are doing their work. They're not dancing, they're not playing, they're actually doing their work. They're capturing their bugs, they're moving through life, doing the things that they were designed to do. And your work can be the same. And in that moment, I realized that work didn't have to look like hustle. It didn't have to look like go, 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 do. There could be another way, and it could look like flow. It could look like ease. It could look like joy. And so that's what I have sought to understand and recognize and teach in how to find that. Because I'll tell you one more story, but before I do that, I want us to find that feeling in ourselves, because it's really easy to look at somebody else and say, yeah, she's experienced that, but I never have. And I'm going to say that we've all experienced that. So I want you to go ahead and just close your eyes for a moment. And I want you to just think about a time that you felt at ease, that you felt like you were doing something you were made to do. And it could be work related, or it could be totally different. It could be creating something. It could be listening to somebody else. It could be showing up with your kids. It could be like noticing a pattern that nobody else notices. But I want you to just find that time when you felt in flow. You felt at ease. You felt like you could just move forward in your zone of genius. And I want you to go ahead and find that feeling in your body and name it. What is that feeling called? What would you call that feeling? And now I want you to go ahead and just turn the volume up on it, almost like you're turning the dial up. You're feeling it spread throughout your whole body, just filling you up with that feeling. Taking in a deep, deep breath, breathing in more of it, feeling it expand. And then as you exhale, feeling that just almost like it's spreading through your whole body as you exhale. Almost like you're marinating in this feeling now. And go ahead and open your eyes. And I would love for you to just type into the chat or write down somewhere. But I'd love to see it in the chat as well. What would you name that feeling? I'm going to pull up the chat, make sure I can see it. Synergy. Yes. Yeah. Beautiful word. Thanks, Deb. Ease. Yeah. Yeah. So hold on to that feeling. And what I want you to recognize is that you found that feeling in your body. Nobody else gave that to you. Nobody else put that into your body. You found it. It's there. It's living there. It's already there, and you've already experienced it. And so you know you can tap into that energy to experience it again. So now I want you to think about a time when you felt stuck. Okay, so go ahead and close your eyes. Now I just want you to think about what does that feel like when you feel stuck, when you feel like you're moving through sludge? It like you sit down to work on something and it feels like your brain isn't processing. Right? Just go ahead and notice that energy. And we don't necessarily need to turn the volume up on that. It actually happens quite naturally on its own. But I want you to go ahead and just name that feeling. What is that feeling? Go ahead and find that in your body. Name it. Just notice it. Acknowledge it. Allow it to be there. Recognize it's all part of the process. Nothing has gone wrong. It's here. And now just go ahead and ask this part of you, what is it here to teach you? What does this part of you want you to know or understand about yourself? And you don't have to put that in the chat, but go ahead and just write that down somewhere. What does this part of you want you to know or understand about yourself? What does it want for you? Okay, fantastic. So what we want to do, we want to bridge that gap, right? There's this place of synergy and ease, and then there's this place of stuck. And we want to be able to live, we want to shine our light more on this place of synergy and ease, because where we shine our light is what we see, and what we see is the direction we'll go, right? Like, we know both exist. The stuck and the ease both exist. You just accessed both of them in your body. Both of them are real. The problem is that our brain is really, really good at shining our light at the stuck, at everything that's going wrong. It's actually a default mechanism of our brain. It's there as a protective mechanism. Our brain does it really well. It's there for our good. There's all of that, but just suffice it to say, our brain is really good at shining the light on everything that's not going well. And if we want to go and head in the direction of ease and synergy, we have to turn our light and intentionally focus our light in that direction. Because where we shine our light is what we see, and what we see is the direction we'll go. Hey, if you're out in the middle of the forest, I just went camping this last weekend, right? When you're walking in the forest in the middle of the night and you've got your flashlight out, if you're shining your light on the path in front of you, you're not going to go in the opposite direction. You're going to follow your light. You're going to walk in the direction that your light is pointing. So let's be intentional about where our light is shining. And oftentimes the default mechanism really gets triggered by our beliefs, those subconscious beliefs, those patterns of thought and the way that we were raised or the way that we think that we aren't even aware of. Sometimes those become like white noise. We've heard them so many times, they like play in the background. We don't even hear them any longer, but they show up. It's where our light is shining, right? So I'm going to give you an example of this, kind of bring this all together. Because like I was saying, I had a lot of practice in running straight into my invisible brick walls. My invisible brick walls were keeping me stuck. It was the beliefs that I held about my worthiness, about my ability to own a business, about my ability to receive money, about my ability to have an effective business and be a successful mom. All of that was playing into my results. I didn't know that. All I knew was that I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. So I kept trying, kept putting in the hustle, wasn't going anywhere. And then I had an opportunity to learn a different way. So I got to the point where I was trying to do everything. I was trying to do it all. And I was getting really burnt out, but the only thing that I knew was hustle. That was the only way that I knew to get results. I didn't know any other way. So I really felt like I had this experience that I'm going to share with you to teach me that there was another way. And so I was putting all this time and effort and energy into my business. I was doing a lot of activities, but not generating much income. And during that time, my daughter got really, really sick. And she was in college. She was 9 hours away. And she was literally calling me on the bathroom floor of her apartment at midnight saying, "Mom, I can't get off the floor. How do I make it back to my bed?" And I was feeling very anxious as a mom, trying to understand how to help her, how to put this time and effort and energy into helping her and still provide time for my business and provide time for this work that felt so important to me. And I remember getting to a point where I just had to surrender. I just had to let go. And I got to a point where I was faced with this crossroads, because one of my biggest beliefs was, and one of the things that had been holding me back in my business was this belief that if I am successful in business, my family suffers. And so here I was with this situation right in front of me where my daughter was very sick and needed a lot of my attention. And I felt in that moment the pull of the old belief that said it has to be either or. Either you take care of your daughter or you take care of your business. You can't have both. And in that moment, I had to decide. It was when I was aware of that brick wall. I saw it for what it was, and I got to choose. Was I going to continue believing that it had to be either or could I shine my light and believe that it could be both? That there was a possibility that I could take care of my daughter and take care of my business at the same time. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up focusing all of my energy, not on the actions. I let go of all of the action, all of the, I got off the treadmill of running as fast as I could, going nowhere. And instead, I put my energy and attention on building the belief that I could have both. I spent time in intentionally marinating in this belief that I could have both, that my business would thrive even when I was taking the time to take care of my daughter, that my clients would be well served and my daughter would feel well taken care of. I cultivated that belief of confidence and certainty that I had the ability to have both. I cultivated the belief of worthiness, that I was worthy to have a business and that didn't mean anything about my worthiness as a mom. I spent time, the time that I did spend was not spent in action. And this is where it was so critical for me to understand. I did not spend my time in action. The time I spent on my business was in cultivating the belief that I could be a successful business owner and a successful mom at the same time. That's what I spent my time doing. And in that month that I was going back and forth between, making the 9-hour drive 4 times in that month time frame, I tripled my income, cutting my to-do list almost by 2/3. I cut down my to-do list. I pared everything down to the bare minimum. But what I did focus on was my belief. I cultivated my energy. And what I learned is that our energy is our greatest asset. Our energy is our greatest asset. And how do we cultivate energy? By what we believe, think, and feel. When we cultivate the energy of synergy and ease, by intentionally shining our light on the beliefs, thoughts, and feelings that create synergy and ease, that's what comes back to us. That's what we bring into our lives. I really, truly feel that I had to go through that experience, as painful as it was, to truly come to the level of belief that I hold now, that our energy truly does make more of a difference than any action ever could. Because I spent years trying to do the action way, where I was just all hustle, and it did not work. I ended up feeling frustrated, stuck, burnt out, and overwhelmed, and fighting against myself. So I want to do a little bit of that cultivating right now. I'd love for us to cultivate, I wanted to take you through the process that I take my clients through, and that it's just a little touch of what you can do on a daily basis to cultivate that energy, to shine your light on that energy of synergy and ease, so that you can continue to bring more of it back into your life. Okay, so We're going to go ahead and do this again. We cultivate the feelings in our body because our body is where we hold feelings. Our mind is where we hold a lot of the fear. We can use our mind to direct and turn and choose where we shine our light, but ultimately our body and our heart is where we really cultivate this energy of synergy and ease. So we're going to access and use this tool of our body to do that. The more we turn the volume up and feel it in our body, the more real it becomes. So let's go ahead. I want you to go ahead and close your eyes. And we're going to tune into our imagination. Albert Einstein said, imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions. Just ponder on that for a moment. Imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions. So we're just going to go ahead and breathe in, just feeling your breath moving in through your nose, dropping all the way down into your belly, filling up your belly with air and exhaling, just feeling the release in your shoulders as you do so. And one more time, you're going to take a big inhale, deep in through your nose, all the way down into your belly, holding at your belly, expanding your belly with air, and exhaling, feeling yourself dropping out of your head and into your body. And this time you're going to breathe right into your heart space, feeling your heart expand as you breathe in, feeling your belly expand, your heart expand, your chest opening. And this time as you exhale, feeling your energy move down into the earth, grounding you, feeling held and supported. Noticing now as you're sitting in your chair, everywhere your body is touching. Just feel where your chair meets your seat, where the feet meet the floor, where your hands are resting. Maybe they meet up with your legs or the arms of the chair, but just notice everywhere you're held, you're supported. You're not going anywhere. Just breathing into that safety, feeling it surround every part of you. Breathing into that safety of being held and supported. Knowing that in this moment, right here, right now, you are safe. And so now you're going to go ahead and you're going to see in your mind's eye a picture of you. This is the you who feels that synergy, that ease. And just within a sense of curiosity, I want you to go ahead and take a look at how she's interacting in the world around her. Just notice how she moves, how she responds to the people around her. Just notice how she lives out and lives fully in this energy of synergy and ease. And now notice that she looks at you and is inviting you in. She's going to call you in to step in and feel and experience this energy and synergy. So stepping into this synergy and ease, you're going to feel yourself moving into her body, breathing with her lungs, seeing out through the eyes of her experience. And just notice what it feels like to be fully enveloped in this synergy and ease. Just notice how your body moves and how you feel. Maybe even just allow your body to move a little bit with this feeling of synergy and ease. Everyone's got their eyes closed, so you're safe. Just allow yourself to move in this synergy and ease. Now you're going to go ahead and just feel into her heart space. Just notice all the feelings that are here, all the feelings that create this feeling of synergy and ease. Maybe it's love, maybe it's gratitude, maybe it's confidence or certainty. Just notice all the feelings that are there. Also noticing that there are feelings of fear and doubt, protection and safety, and that's okay too. They're going to be there as you expand. That's okay. Nothing's wrong. Just acknowledge that they're too, that they're there too. And so now you're going to move up into your headspace and you're going to feel around in your headspace, noticing the thoughts that you have about yourself and the world around you as you feel this energy and synergy. Maybe it's what are the thoughts that create synergy and ease in your body? What are the thoughts that create certainty and confidence? And just breathe here for a couple of moments and notice the thoughts. And now you're going to breathe right down into your soul, right down to the middle of your chest, right down into that place that feels like the very core of you. And from this place, what are you believing about yourself to have this experience of synergy and ease? In this space, what are you believing about yourself? Beautiful. So now go ahead and take a big, deep, clearing breath, breathing in all the way to your belly and exhaling fully, coming right back into the room, right here, right now, feeling your seat in the chair. Just feeling yourself wiggling right into this moment. Go ahead and open your eyes, and I want you to write down that one belief statement. What are you believing about yourself to have this experience? So this belief right here is what I would encourage you to start every day with. Cultivate this energy of belief in yourself. Feel this in your body. Breathe right into this feeling. Find it, recognize it, access it every day. And then when you take action, you can ask yourself from this space, what next? What action do I take from this space? This is where your power is found, not in giving your power away to somebody else's plan, somebody else's book, somebody else's strategy. Your power is found within. Your answers are found within. And the more you trust and turn up the belief on that, the more power you have moving into the world around you. So with that, I would love to hear what are the insight, what's one takeaway that you had from today? And the reason I'm very strategic in asking that, because the takeaway is the one thing you were meant to hear today. It is why you felt the call to be here today. And that is where all the magic happens. It's not, you can take a million things and write down 100 different notes, but your one takeaway is the thing you were meant to be here to hear. So I would love for you to voice that and for us to acknowledge that with you. So Deb, what is your one takeaway? And then I'll ask the same of Shuri.
I'm trying to kind of summarize it. So knowing how powerful the mind is and the importance of believing in myself and that I can do it. Because I know most of the time I'm on that negative energy side. I'm that spiraling down, that just giving up, not the belief in myself enough. And I kind of know where that comes from, but needing to practice the positive more. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And it is a process of bringing our belief to match the positive statements, right? Because sometimes it can feel like we're yelling positive affirmations in the mirror and they're bouncing right back. We're like, I can do it. I can do it. I can do it. Right. Sometimes there's like for a long time, I was getting into action with the belief I'm worthy of owning my business. I'm worthy of my business being successful, but there was a part of me that I wasn't even aware of, that I didn't fully believe it. So just being aware that sometimes if it feels like you're yelling positive affirmations and they're bouncing right back, there's sometimes just an opportunity to look a little deeper. So, but yeah, absolutely, 100%. There's that shining your light on the positive and the power of the mind. 100% accurate. Yeah, thanks for sharing. What about you, Shuri?
Yeah, mine from that exercise was changing from marketing is hard and I can't do it to I am good at marketing in my way and I'm good at sales in my own way and not somebody else's way, and really like shining my light in that direction instead of trying to do it the way everybody else does it or the way that people say you should do it. So
yeah. And that's a tricky one, right? When there's like the A+B formulas out there, right? Like you do A and you do B and you get C results. And it's like, I'm doing A and I'm doing B and I'm getting F and G results. I'm not getting the C result that I thought I was supposed to get. So yeah, it's when it's, where am I putting my power and where am I giving my power away? And can I bring it back into, I'm good at marketing in my way. And what does that look like? Yeah, really powerful.
I think that's really powerful because I know many a times I've felt that way, that it's like everybody else is doing it this way. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do it that way? Why am I so different? And yeah, trying to just own it, accept it and own it.
Yeah. And it's interesting because even when you do, so I've had that conversation with many different business owners who have embraced marketing per se, and it looks like they're doing it the way everybody is telling them to do it, or they're going out and teaching it and saying, look, this worked for me, do it this way now. When you really get down and have a conversation with them, it's because they believed that that was their way. They were taught a different way, and then they're like, no, that doesn't work for me, I'm going to do it this way. And it worked for them because it was their way. So it's really powerful. And sometimes you can adopt somebody else's way because it aligns with your own, and sometimes it just doesn't feel aligned.
Can I share a quick story with you?
Mhm.
So kind of interesting. Recently, I work in the events industry. And so recently earlier this year, was asked to come work with one of the leaders in the event industry on a project. And it was a multiple team. We were in 7 different states. And when I saw who was asked to work in the other states, I was like, oh my gosh, these are huge people in the industry. And I'm like, why did they choose me? This is my mindset. So going into this, even people who were on my team, I'm like, why am I the lead of the team? They have more experience. They've done bigger things. And so I get there on a Friday and I'm listening and I'm still trying to learn from everyone else and just kind of hearing, oh, what do they do? What are they charging? What are their packages? What have you? And then we had the actual event, which I was the lead, and making sure that this was pulled off. And it was a huge event. It was a hybrid event. So it was actually 3 events in one. We thought we were going to have 900 people. We had over 1,100 people. And of course, things went haywire. But in that vision that you asked me, one of the things was the night before the event, when everything was buttoned up, ready to go. And when I walked out the doors, and then the feeling I got, and I literally got chills and like, oh my gosh, this is my event. And then even after the event on Monday, the people that I held in such high standards disappointed me, that I was like, oh my gosh, like, I couldn't believe that they were good in one area, but as employees, we want to know employers, we want to know what our employees' strengths are. And I'm like, gosh, I had this no idea, because these people are just put on my team. And I thought they were, the bomb. And I'm like, I was so shocked of how they didn't follow through. And so when I left on Tuesday, I looked back and reflect to Friday. I'm like, why am I here? Awesome to be amongst all these big names. But when I left on Tuesday, I went, oh, I now know why I'm here.
Mhm. And on a scale of 1 to 10, how big was your belief in yourself going into the event? And how big of it was your belief 1 to 10 going out of the event?
More so for me, my skill set. I know I have skills, but I haven't been able to utilize them as big and as frequently as everyone else. And so I knew going in, but I still felt that inferiority. So maybe like going in like 5, 6, but coming out close to 10.
Yeah. And so that experience right there was designed to increase your belief, not in your skills. You knew your skills were at par, right? What you gained from that experience was the belief in you as a leader, a leader of leaders, right? Your belief now you have access to that belief to tap into anytime, right? Like I now have evidence. I'm a leader of leaders. And I have, these people that I held in such high esteem actually are human too. Which means that when I make a mistake, that means I'm human also, and that's okay. People can still hold me in high esteem, and I'm still okay to make a mistake. Right? Like that experience right there is so powerful. I'm so glad you shared that, because you can cultivate that and create from that feeling and have the evidence to continue marinating in that, right? I am a leader of leaders. I have what it takes. Yeah, thanks for
That's
sharing.
good because literally 2 weeks ago I had a meltdown, so of the total opposite direction.
Mhm. Which is anytime, I call it the terror barrier, right? The closer we get to a goal or a desire, especially something that feels really close to our heart, the more terror comes up. And the only thing, just like I said, the only thing that kept me moving towards towards what I wanted was that desire, was that pull, right? Like, okay, I'm going to get up and try again. I'm going to try again, right? So that desire is what continues to move us forward. So when you have like that meltdown, tune into that desire and then continue marinating and cultivating that belief, because it is there, but the terror is going to be really loud sometimes.
Yeah, no, this has been good. It's been really good. Thank you.
Good. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Well, Misty, I know that you need to hop off in just a few minutes here. So I just wanted to say thank you for coming on and sharing your gifts with us as you always do. Every time Misty comes on, like I always bring her on into my events, right, to help other people. And I always walk away with something. That's just what she's amazing at. So Misty, thank you again for being here. And I just love you. And I just love the way that you help women to really move forward in the way that God is calling them to move forward and helping them to break through those barriers. And you're amazing. And thank you for being here.
Thank you. Well, I love that you think of me. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. And I look forward to seeing you all soon.
Real quick, Misty, where are you
Yes.
located at?
Spokane, Washington.
Okay.
Yep. And you can find me on Facebook, Instagram, Misty Springer Coaching. Would love to connect with you. So yeah, just reach out.
I'll say too, for those of you who are on live and watching the recording, if you haven't yet joined the Hustle to Harmony Facebook group, when you got the emails that said watch live now, and that'll connect you to the Zoom link, and the recordings will be held in our Facebook group, or you can also connect with all the speakers that were here. Misty's in there. So that's another way that you guys can connect and get all of the resources. Be sure to check your email when you registered. Anybody who registered, that we have a bunch of free gifts and resources. So Tracy that talked earlier had one in there with the free chat bots, and lots of good resources in there, freebies, downloads for different things to help you, and specifically really designed for helping 6, 7, and 8-figure business owners, but anybody entrepreneur. So thank you all for being here today. That wraps up our day one. Tomorrow we start at 9:50 a.m. with networking, and then 10 o'clock we'll do intros, and 10:15 is our first speaker, which will be me, and I'll be sharing my story as well. So thank you all for being here, for showing up on day one, for taking time to be here live, Deb, or if you're watching the recording, taking the time to be here. And we will see you all tomorrow.
Thank you all.
Misty, I have to tell you, twice you said something about designed to be. My business name is Designed for You Events.
Oh, no kidding.
So like you said that twice, maybe 3 times. And so I'm like, okay, I'm hearing it.
You're here for a reason.
Yeah. Thank you, ladies, so
Well,
very much.
Glad to meet you.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.